slide 28. I think I can start. For anybody who just came in after I mentioned, all the artwork you're about to see belongs to the artist. Their name will be somewhere on the slide. And you can find that information at asexualartists.tumblr.com or asexualartists.wordpress.com. And I highly recommend looking it up because there are a lot of really cool artists out there who identify as asexual. Okay, so my name is Jankowski. I'm also somewhat known as the badass ace feminist avenger online, or that bad word for a woman who won't stop being mean to allos. Starting out, I'd like, if you have paper with you, I'd like you to list 10 contemporary openly asexual artists, 5 visual, 5 speculative fiction, if you can think of them. Can anybody? Okay. While you're thinking, a couple terms I'll be using during this presentation are monosexism, which is the belief that sexuality falls on a gay-straight spectrum, thereby erasing the experiences of bisexual people, pansexual people, and asexual people. Ace, which is slang for asexual. Allosexual, which is anybody who doesn't fall on the asexual spectrum. Now, any of the artists you've thought of, how many do you know personally, and that's why you know they're asexual? How many of them have been guests at conventions, or up for awards, or have a very wide kind of people know them? I venture to guess not that many, which is part of the reason why I started Asexual Artists. A lot of people said there just aren't that many asexual artists. There just aren't that many asexual writers.
You need some more?
That's a wet comment. There you have Pack of Aces, 5 openly asexual speculative fiction writers. Joel Corna, who is a lovely, lovely person, lovely human being. Claudia Arsenault, Lysa Chiavari, myself, and Darcy Littlebatcher, and T. Houston, both openly asexual. When I started writing, somebody who I trusted very, very much, I came out to them as asexual, and their response was to tell me that you cannot possibly be an artist if you are asexual. And then proceeded to quote a writer, some obscure writer, who apparently said one cannot actually write unless they experience sex or an orgasm or something like that. And because I didn't know, I couldn't find any asexual writers, I believed this person. And it was at a very vulnerable time in my life, so I went through a good 2 to 5 years, I'd say, actually believing that I could not write creatively because I happened to be asexual. And so last year I started Asexual Artists because a list came around about great asexual representation in speculative fiction, and there was not a single openly asexual author on that list. And I got very mad, and I wrote a friend an email, a very, very colorful email, and she said, well, why don't you make your own list? I'm like, yes, that is what I will do. I will do that. So I take out a piece of paper, and I sit down, I'm like, I am going to make this list. Oh no. I could not think of a single asexual author, and I was like, that's not good. So I thought there have to be more people out there like me who thought they could not write or they couldn't be creative because of their orientation, and it honestly broke my heart thinking that somebody could be convinced of that, because I know the hell that I went through when I was. So I was like, I sent out a call on Tumblr. I said, hey, if you're an asexual artist, you wouldn't mind an interview, please contact me. I started the blog thinking I'd get maybe 100 followers, do maybe 25 interviews, 50 if I were lucky. As of this date, I have interviewed close to 300 artists, and I have over 4,000 followers. So, yeah. But I have not seen asexual representation in genre spaces improve at all. And yet we're out there. And so I started looking into why is this? Why can't I find more openly asexual people? Why can't artists be asexual and artists? So the more I looked into this, the more I realized that whenever I'd see interviews with asexuals, it would revolve solely around asexuality. Or if they were an artist, it's like you can only be either an artist or asexual. If you're asexual, everybody wants to know everything about your personal life, everything about like what you strange creatures do and what sets you apart. Personally, some questions that allo interviewers have felt appropriate to ask me in interviews. Do you masturbate? I've gotten that 4 times in interviews. Do you experience arousal? 2 or 3 times. Do you have any sex toys or dildos? Have you tried those? Were you traumatized? And talking with other asexuals, I've found they've gotten similar questions, which is weird because it's like, well, what does that have to do with my work? There's also this weird need to make asexuality fit into a heteronormative allosexual narrative. For example, I had a literary agent tell me that an asexual author was too niche to sell, and he wouldn't sign an asexual artist. Recently publishers have gotten more interested in asexuals who write romance or who write normally, or like an allosexual. And it's just bizarre to me. And it's because our society is so obsessed with romance and relationships, and just think, when was the last time you read a book that did not have some form of love triangle or romantic attachment in it? I can't think of one. Of course, I haven't read a lot recently because I've been really busy. I've also found that most allosexuals are way more concerned with fictional aces than they are with real asexual creators. So you'll see calls for like, we want asexual characters, we want more ace representation in our work. I know, I'll write an asexual character. I won't talk to a single asexual person or a single asexual person who identifies as such. I'll just, make shit up. That never works out well. I don't recommend doing that. Please don't do that. Please. So, with fictional asexuals written by allosexuals, they still have this strange need to make romantic attachments or romantic feelings of the characters kind of like at the forefront. And with most asexuals, that's just not true. It's not our experience. Society at whole has this very strict construct of love and how it's supposed to be ranked. It's a very hierarchical view of love. You're supposed to love your children first, then your spouse and or partner, or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, then your family, then your friends. And that's how it should be. With asexuals, you have this challenge to this kind of hierarchy. The platonic love I experience for friends is no different than the love I feel for my family. And that blows people's minds. I don't know why, but it usually does. strict construct of love. It's both traditional, it's very like rooted in tradition, but it's also incredibly profitable. If you're wondering what I mean by that, I have 2 words for you: wedding industry. Just take a look at that. Also, who else has seen about 20 eHarmony ads per day? So, yep, there we go. This is part of the reason why there are very few ace characters, and in particular, very few arrow ace characters, because when you say, you know what, I don't really need that in my life, people freak the hell out. Especially people attached to these industries freak the hell out. It's actually really funny. And you see this in popular culture too. Like the second an asexual character can be interpreted as asexual, they're suddenly thrown into a love story. I've seen this time and time and time again, and it's both annoying but also kind of funny. It's like, oh shit, they're no longer human. Love story, love story, love story. Nobody will relate to them if they're not in love with somebody. It's also why asexuals tend to be viewed with pity, like, oh, I wrote an essay for Jim C. Hines about asexuality in speculative fiction. And one of the very first comments was, or one of the comments very early on was, I feel so sorry for you that you can't, that you have to go through life asexual. I'm not saying you're broken or anything, but sex is just so intimate and loving, and it's sad that you'll never have that. And I'm like, well, go fuck yourself. Thankfully, more people responded to that person. I did not. I deal with ace-phobes on a regular basis. I did not feel like engaging that person. Also, I did not want to drop a million F-bombs on Mr. Hines' website. Yeah, and there's also this hatred toward asexuals. Like, whenever there's a big film franchise coming out, I always kind of inwardly sigh because I know it's coming. Star Wars, for example, there has been a shit ton of ace hate for aces who read Rey as asexual every single day, and it's just, it does not stop. It's just like, how dare you take a lesbian character and try and claim her as your own, being asexual, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, first of all, lesbian and asexual, the two aren't mutually exclusive. There are asexuals who identify as lesbian. There's, not all asexuals are aro-ace or aromantic asexual like moi. You have homoromantic, you have heteroromantic, you have biromantic, you have gray A's. Like, people read a fucking book. Read a fucking book, read a fucking essay or some shit. The asexual narrative is often seen as threatening because, in general, and again, this isn't all asexuals, but in general, asexuals don't experience sexual desire. And so, as we all know, there's this idea that sex sells, so the idea that platonic love can be just as fulfilling as romantic love, and it's not as beneficial for the industries that I mentioned earlier, like wedding, dating. Some people who ship think that there can't be ace ships, and they're stupid. So this is why asexuality is often interpreted through a heteronormative lens, or why it's more acceptable for allosexuals to write asexuals than asexuals. I'll mention that every single author you see up here has an openly asexual character. But ours are kind of like more threatening, whereas with an allosexual, because they have these kind of ace-phobic kind of mindset sometimes, their asexual characters are a lot less threatening. I'm sorry?
Homestuck.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of Homestuck fan artists who identify as ace. I didn't even know what it was until like I started Asexual Artists, and I was like, okay, cool. Also, asexuals are often told they're not queer enough to be in queer spaces, and that is really heartbreaking to me. Just because there's like no safe space for asexuals. There's like, it's straights hate us. The LGBTQIA plus community usually is not fond of us. Or on Tumblr anyway, that's a whole other thing. I've also found, I've only given this talk once before, but I've found in general more people can name fictional asexual characters or ones who can be interpreted as such than they can real asexual people. So perhaps unsurprisingly, this is why most asexual, and perhaps most unsurprisingly, most characters they name or tell me that can be interpreted aren't human. Because as we know, because apparently I'm an alien, or a robot, or a dragon in one very weird case.
You want to be a dragon, though.
I know, I'd love to be a dragon.
Awesome.
I'd love to spit fire or acid. I want to spit acid. I want to spit acid so bad.
But you burn your mouth. Like,
no, if you have acid spit, you have like protection. Anyway, I'm a nerd. So you want to be a good ally to the asexual community. This may be a small thing to you, but it means a lot to aces. Whatever your preferred anagram for LGBTQ, if it's LGBTQIA, LGBTQ, LGBT, whatever, please, 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 please add a plus afterwards. Because that way you're acknowledging that there are people that, whatever your anagram is, there are people that aren't covered by it. So pansexuals and asexuals are often left out. And when you add a plus, you're acknowledging that they exist and they're part of the community. And that means a lot. When there are calls for diversity, LGBTQ often becomes LG. And I can't tell you how often I've seen this happen with anthologies for LGBTQ people. If it, in the rare occasions it includes an asexual author, you will often see this response: how dare you include somebody who has not experienced the oppression that we have? How do you justify that? And I keep telling my friends, please stop showing me that because I go off and I tend to get myself in a little bit of trouble. I have a big mouth and I never shut the fuck up. Also, a single anthology of bi-pan ace authors is not revolutionary. I've had people, somebody recommended this to me and I was like, okay, that's one thing, and you basically just crammed together these three groups and then proceeded to call it like invisible voices or something. We're not invisible, you're ignoring us. Yeah. Also, asexuals we're not cookie machines, we don't hand out cookies. So, like, if you make an asexual character, don't go with your hand out to, hey, aces, look what I did for you. Awesome. I sound so bad, I don't care. Writing an explicitly asexual character is awesome. It really is, we really appreciate it. There are quite a few aces that care more about allosexual feelings than other asexuals. That's a whole other thing that I won't get into because then I'm going to get tweets about, bitch, I'm going to ruin your life. And, oh, fuck yourself. But anyway, yeah, explicitly asexual characters are great if you do it right. Asexuals aren't here to teach you how to write our experiences, nor are we here to, like, educate you on the entire asexual spectrum. That's not our reason for existence. If you have never spoken to a single asexual person, please change that before you attempt to write an asexual character, please. Please. And keep in mind that intersectionality applies to asexuality. In spite of what society shows, asexuals are not comprised entirely of white women, white cis women. I cannot tell you how often I've seen asexual people of color targeted on Tumblr, and it has got to stop. I'm sick of seeing it. I'm sick of seeing the voices of asexual people of color just completely erased. It's infuriating. As much as I hate ACE 101 interviews and ACE 101 articles, I hate them even more because they almost exclusively frame asexuality as attractive white cis women. And that is very damaging and very harmful for a number of reasons. So yeah, oh God, I could go for a rant for about 3 hours about that. I won't, I could, but I won't. The most important thing, you have got to support asexual artists. You've got to support openly asexual people. I'm really sick of seeing people get praised for writing asexual characters. Like, LO authors, I really appreciate allies, but I really get annoyed when people think that their asexual characters are way more important than actually supporting asexual artists. I'm sick of asexuals being used solely as research material. I've seen a number of ace-safe spaces. Allos come on and say, "Oh my God, thank you so much for this. It has helped me write my characters. This is so great." Oh, that's not what asexual advice blogs are for. It's infuriating to see that happening, to see allos just basically take over the asexual narrative. Also, I never want to see another article about how to write asexual characters. I can't read them, I can't stand them, I don't like them. So yeah, please, commission ace illustrators, buy books from ace authors, show your support over social media. Guys, asexuals in general are like golden retrievers. If you send them a shout out on social media, you'll see the happiest fucking ace ever, and it's fucking adorable. The business card, you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names. No, hundreds of names. Just so many artists you can commission, so many authors you can buy from. It's really amazing, and it's really humbling to run asexual artists. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, the asexual community, we desperately need allies. There needs to be representation because there are asexuals in the world, and I don't want there to be any more aces like me who have to go through hell because they don't know that there are asexual creators out there that aren't fictional. We're constantly made to feel broken and to feel less than and to feel like we're lacking or there's something wrong with us, or it sucks so much. I wish I could just put into words just how much it sucks. Just being asexual in a world where like sex is made to be like the norm, and to see these artists be so overlooked and so fucking talented. I want more people to support them because they're amazing. Acephobia, it might not seem like a huge deal, but it really affects people's lives. I like to think I'm a smart person. I was convinced that I couldn't write because of my sexual orientation. That's fucking ridiculous. That should not have happened. And acephobia, it's rampant and it needs to stop. Being silent, it's not helping us. It really isn't. Please just help get the word out about these amazing, oh, I love that person, about these amazing artists that are out there. Yeah, because none of these artists are alike. You could find, none of these are alike. Joel's epic fantasy. Claudie is solar punk. Oh, Claudie, I hope I said that right. Apologies if I didn't. Lissa, I might have said her name wrong too. Sorry, Lissa. Lissa does science fiction, young adult science fiction. I do modern fantasy. Darcy Little Badger has written a lot of dark fantasy. Shining Ascension, I believe, is high fantasy. I have to double check. My brain is kind of, I'm not used to public speaking, so my brain is kind of blanking at the moment. But yeah, oh God, I really wish asexual artists had like a better speaker than me. Because I suck. So yeah, are there any questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Well, how, aside from just being good allies, how can allosexuals like me create a safer environment for asexuals?
Big thing is calling out acephobia when you see it, and I know that's really difficult because it's very insidious and it sometimes manifests as ace erasure, which is basically just not acknowledging asexual people exist. So there's that. Again, the best thing you can do is support asexual artists and shout out over social media, hey, I found this really fucking awesome person. Everybody should support them. Yeah, and again, including aces in whatever work you do. That as long as you do it correctly, that's also helpful. But yeah, I'm mostly about, and this is why a lot of aces hate me. I'm mostly about asexuals, where I'm like, I want people to more boost their work. I do want respectful portrayals of asexuality, but I also want more attention paid to asexual artists in particular. But yeah, just being friends with aces, supporting their work, not asking if they've been traumatized, which happens a lot more than you'd expect. Yeah, that kind of thing. Any other? Is that a hand or is that, okay.
So how do you think it would be best for non-asexual people to create asexual characters without commodifying them?
I recommend buying work by asexuals and reading basically how an asexual writes an ace character. And again, if that should provide a good base. Also, asexual advice blogs, it's fine to use them occasionally, but just keep in mind that's an ace safe space. And like, as much as it helps you, it's kind of like, I don't like seeing thank you letters sent to them, because then that makes that makes some asexuals think that allos are on there, and it'll make them less likely to send a question in. So yeah, because again, acephobia sometimes manifests rather aggressively, and a lot of asexuals are closeted because of it, and it just, yeah. So that would be my advice, is buying books by asexuals, reading how they portray asexuality, and advice blogs are fine to use. Google is your friend. It is awesome. On Asexual Artists, there's a couple of links pages that lead to general essays about asexuality, and Spectrum, where you can learn more about it, that kind of thing. Yes?
I just want to add in as an asexual artist.
I want to interview you.
You know, just making sure I can't stress enough the diversity within
Yes.
the asexual community.
It's a
You know,
spectrum.
you're a romantic asexual. I am a hetero-romantic asexual. There are so many different, you know, types and just variations.
Oh yeah, it's a
of us.
spectrum.
And it's important. I mean, I hate it when I see representation that's the same
Yeah.
cookie cutter asexual when
Oh,
I
yeah.
know how diverse we are.
Oh, my personal favorite, the one that'll make me kick a table over if anybody wants to see something funny, is the asexual that doesn't know about genitals. It doesn't know anything about sexual. Oh yeah, there's plenty of that out there where I say, what is this in my pants? I do not understand it. That'll make me kick over a table. My mom won't thank you for that. My friends will think it's fucking hilarious. Go ahead.
I'm not a writer or anything. I'm just kind of interested because, like you said, visibility and just being, sorry, not visibility, people are ignoring you, I get it. But do you have any resources for people like allies who just want to know more about this? Like, I understand it's not your job to educate us, but we would like to learn. Do you have, just to kind of understand what you guys go through?
Again, on the links page of Asexual Artists, I have like general links. Fuck Yeah Asexual has some pretty decent links, so does the Asexuality blog. I cannot say enough good things about Arf, who runs Demisexual Speaks on Tumblr, or she also runs another blog about demisexuality. I think it's Ask a Demisexual. Sorry, Arf. But yeah, she has just a phenomenal resources about demisexuality. So yeah, I recommend like going on generalized asexual blogs. They will usually have just fantastic links that will lead to all sorts of wonderful information. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I would also like to address him because he mentioned how you learn about asexuals and like how to not generalize them. I'd like to add, as a possibly hetero-asexual, possibly demisexual person, that there are an incredibly wide range of experiences that an asexual can have. Like, my experience was actually quite different than yours, in that, like, I really didn't experience so much resistance or acephobia, but I did experience a lot of, you know, like, people telling me, or like, we would talk about like partners and whatever, and I would just say like, hey, well, you know, I feel attraction, but I don't like to take it to third base. It's just like, it feels weird to me. It feels unnatural to me. And sometimes if I was taught, like, these would be guys who later on would want me to be in a relationship with them. And I was just kind of like, whoa. So, like, I never experienced any direct resistance. So it can be anywhere between, like, people who are, who have, like, had, like, horrible things said to them when they come out as asexual, or they can be, like...
Or even done to them. There have been huge concern in the asexual community is trigger warning, corrective rape, and that is perpetuated against asexuals more than we know. All our statistics on asexuality are 10 years out of date. They're 10 years old because nobody thinks it's worth studying, and that is a problem. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody? Oh, person, right?
Is there anything you have seen get better in the past, say, especially 10 years out of date, is there anything in the 10 years that you have said, yes, this is a good thing?
I'm a cynic, so I'm the worst person on the planet, in the galaxy to ask. I've seen an awareness of asexuality kind of rise a bit, mostly in the LGBTQIA community, IA+. One of the most awesome things I've seen is the bisexual community, pansexual community, and the polyamory community actually ally with aces. It's kind of a joke in the community that if you mess with an ace, a bisexual is going to hook you up. Like every ace has a bisexual best friend, which it's funny how true that stereotype can be at times. So I have seen some really great alliances where people are like, no, you know what, asexuality is a real, genuine thing, and we need to be more respectful of it. At large, not really. Because asexuality is kind of like newer, I understand that this is like the time when things are going to be like the shittiest. And I guess they have gotten a little less shitty. But yeah, by and large, no, but it is kind of getting better. Still kind of sucks though. Sorry. Anybody else? Oh, yeah.
Since you're a writer, I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about what your progression as an asexual writer has been like. What are some of the things that you may have changed about how you write asexual characters from when you started to your work now?
Interestingly, I wrote about this on Pack Bases. We're a group of evil asexual speculative fiction authors who are going to take over the world. Thank you, Claudia. When I started my first book, I was still working with my mentor. So I knew I wanted asexual characters, but I could not use the term asexual for my own personal safety, or emotional safety. So they were kind of like covert aces. And now I'm just like, yeah, everybody's fucking asexual. I don't give a shit. There's a shit ton of self-hate in my first book. And it's funny to me that readers say it seems like somebody else wrote my second, it seems like a different person wrote my second book. I'm like, well, yeah, because somebody that's kind of true, because I wasn't a self-hating ace anymore. I was kind of like, you know what, I can write whatever I want, watch me. So now I'm like, I'm just so explicit about asexual. Like my character Alex has always been aromantic asexual. I finally wrote she was aromantic asexual, like in blatant language in the fourth book. Isis is gray A, Blitz is aeroflux. I learned like when I finally was able to embrace my asexuality, I learned this magnificent spectrum and a whole new vocabulary, which for a writer is just like, yes, more words. So I became like even more diverse in like the spectrum and where the characters identified on the spectrum, because oh my god, I loved that. I found this whole new language I could use. So yeah, I became way more explicit and way more proud and way more open how I was writing asexuality, and I think it made my writing just a lot. It made it so much better. Saw something moving. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on queer as an ace-inclusive term?
Aces are queer. That's literally all I can say. Aces are queer. I believe it. It seems to be more accepted. I do see on Tumblr, I do see a lot of vitriol about it, but Tumblr is fucking weird. And I've come to learn Tumblr is its own kind of world, and not.
Different environment.
Yes, very different, and sometimes it is a.
And people in Tumblr tend to think that that's the only world.
Yep. I learned that the hard way when somebody told me they hoped I got murdered because I used the wrong pronouns for an artist. I used the pronouns the artist gave me, and they're like, "Stupid fucking bitch, you're horrible. I hope you get murdered." I was like, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, the hate I get on Tumblr, I actually turned off. I love parent pieces. I actually turned off the anonymous asks because I got sick of being told to go drink bleach. So, yeah, I got sick of death threats and derogatory terms for women. So, yeah, that don't have to deal with that shit anymore. Any other questions? Yes.
Is there any sort of advice that you give asexual writers or artists or anything sort that is like specific to operating in the asexual space as opposed to just like general advice that you would give anyone for their career?
I'm sorry, could
So like, do you have any sort of asexual artist specific advice for an asexual artist who's just like starting out that's like specific to operating inside ace spaces and just like working within all of the assumptions that people will have and all of the things that might be directed at you?
Yeah, recognize your experience is unique to you. And so there's no one right way to be asexual. There are so many asexual safe spaces. Asexual Artists is open to every single artist, whether you're published or not, whether you're a student, aspiring, whatever. You're welcome to have an interview. Yeah, just research all you can on asexuality. Follow some of the amazing blogs out there. Just know that there is a community of asexual artists who are, for the most part, are very open and very accepting, and will just sweet if new asexual artist comes in. It's just like, hello, come party with us. We love you. We use love so much. I am going to look so weird on this video. Not that I don't already, but okay. But yeah, just know that there's a community out there that's so supportive and so loving. And yeah, there are some douchebags, like there are in every community. I've encountered a couple, but for the most part, it's a very open, accepting community and very loving. And yeah, very diverse, despite what the media shows.
I just wanted to make a comment about what you said, because you said that you use love a lot.
Yes.
Well, it's a great way to show that love is not exclusively romantic.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's like, allosexuals do not have a monopoly on love, and that we need, just the world at large needs a better understanding of asexual love.
And platonic love.
Platonic love.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the best things about coming out and being the openly badass, aromantic asexual that I am, is I started using love a lot more. I was always terrified of the term, because I thought, okay, that's only something you say to your parents and your siblings and your family. That's it. And now I'm just like fucking ending emails like, I fucking love you, I love you, I love you. I see my friends, I'm just like, I love you. And it's so wonderful, because it's like, wow, I'm a very happy person. And it's like, oh gosh, I really wish platonic love wasn't as, Mo's awesome. I really wish platonic love wasn't as devalued as it is. And I hate that love has become so synonymous with romance, and in particular, sex, and by doing that, you're leaving out aromantics, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, it's just like, you need love. Love is awesome. Everybody go see Leia. Lee knows. Leia's fucking cool. There needs to be more love in the world, and romantic love is great, awesome, okay, but there needs to be like this acceptance of platonic love. Like, I'm so sick of the guy's girl gets murdered, he was in love with her, now he must kill everything. It's like, why can't there be like a best friend who her friend was hurt and she was like, you know what, I'm gonna hook you up for that, because believe me, that happens a lot more in life than you'd expect. I mean, that's love when you're standing up for your friends or your family or whatever. It's not purely romantic. Any more questions? Red wine.
To extend upon what the previous person said, there is a reason why asexual people are so drawn to Homestuck and like Homestuck fan art and stuff. It's because, well, yes, the other 3 quadrants, one of them might actually absolutely disgust you, so I'm not bringing the rest of them up, but there's something called a moirail, which is basically like a really strong, like, platonic love bond between 2 individuals. Yeah, that's
I know what you're talking about. I just want to like clarify it. What she's talking about is the author has written that there is a kind of love that is just as valid and has as great of a biological draw to the species, that they have a just as strong of a bond to create platonic love and friendship than people do to create romantic relationships. So it does kind of fall into the ace as an alien thing. I can understand why, but for I imagine as an asexual with no outlet, like no representation of that, because that would be a good thing to have, to kind of discover that you can have a life mate that you don't sleep with, you don't have a desire to reproduce with them, but they are your best friend and your love, but it's completely platonic. It's the same love as you would have to your brother or your best friend.
There needs to be more queer platonic partners in fiction. I'm just going to put that out there. There needs to be way more queer platonic relations. Thank you! Way more queer platonic pairs or triads or there needs to be more portrayals of healthy polyamory too, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, there needs to be more healthy polyamory. There needs to be more healthy queer platonic partners. There needs to be like more healthy non-het relationships in general. I know that's fucking controversial. Yes, thank you. Okay, yes.
I just wanted to mention it because I saw it and it just reminded me about it. Have you ever seen or read the manga for Revolutionary Girl Utena?
I'm sorry?
Revolutionary Girl Utena is a Japanese.
I have not.
Well, yeah, so.
It was great.
But I feel that the main character is asexual, and it kind of goes through this like thing of where like they're best friends. You know, the 2 girls are best friends. It's a very platonic relationship. Like there's nothing very physical, but they love each other. And at the end, I don't want to spoil it for everybody who hasn't seen it, but you know, they have to basically decide how they feel about each other. And it didn't really come out as a like romantic thing, more of as like I love you, but I don't know if I want to do so much of that. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a Japanese one. I mean, I recommend everybody watch it, to be honest.
Please drop by my table so I can like write that down. I'll just mention, because I saw it pass by real fast, I interviewed a couple asexual surrealists, and the first time I interviewed an asexual surrealist, that was like one of the most amazing experiences of my life, because the acephobic mentor that I was working with had told me that surrealism was all about sexuality. He's like, you can't enjoy surrealism if you think you're asexual. And so when I interviewed an asexual surrealist, I was like, oh, we can do that? Oh my God, that's awesome! So yeah, just wanted to say that just because I find it funny and I'll be laughing about that or cringing about it later. Yeah, it's questions. I don't bite. Very nice.
I have another comment.
Okay.
I just
Go on,
to supplement what you said, that as an artist, I think that mentality is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That you're, because of your orientation, you cannot create a certain kind of art.
Yeah.
Because art is not defined by sexual orientation.
Obviously.
It's an expression of the artist and their creative intention. So, no one group or orientation owns a style of art,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of ethnic art, because you're part of the ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no sexual orientation attached to a genre of art.
Believe me, I still can't believe I was convinced today. Like I said, I like to think that I'm a relatively smart person, and it's just like looking back on that, I'm just like, what the hell?
So how else would you have known?
Yeah, that's true.
Go on this journey.
We got 10 minutes left, so any other questions? Go ahead.
What are some of your favorite books by asexual writers then? Where, aside from, where would you point people to start aside from your books, which I think are obvious?
Again, I love Jill Cornell, I love Lisa. Sorry, Lisa. I love Claudine Darcy. Guys, you have got to fucking go out and find all her stuff, because she's awesome. They're all awesome people. Asexual Artists has a writer's section, which is all openly asexual people, and I have tried my best to put the genre they write in. If I haven't, it's because I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, I recommend starting there. Pack of Aces, which again, were the evil speculative fiction authors who are going to dominate the world. We're going to take over the world, so be nice to us. All March, we're running author interviews with openly asexual authors. And you have a wonderful, wide, diverse group of authors who are just fantastic. Most of them are fantastic. No, they're all fantastic. So I would recommend looking there too. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. It's really hard because again, a lot of aces who are authors remain in the closet because they don't want to be asked if they use dildos, or they don't want to be quizzed on their asexuality. I choose to be open because I don't want somebody to suffer like I did. But again, it's personal choice. So yeah, it is, I fully sympathize that it is hard to find asexual authors. Makes me angry at Allyship society, but it's another story. Don't alienate people, Lauren. Yeah, so there. Pack of Aces, Asexual Artists, those are great starting points. Yeah, that's the best I'm such a bad person to speak on this. Yeah, those would be my recommendations. Wow. Anybody else? Go ahead.
You had mentioned as a kind of caveat that you were always happy for respectful representation. I wonder if you could speak on representation of asexuality in current pop culture in general, and whether or not you consider what kind of are some of the criteria of respectable representation from both allisexuals and asexuals.
I'm gonna get yelled
For
at
yourself.
so much.
Your own personal.
I'm going to get
Qualifications.
so yelled at. Personal qualifications that almost nobody has met. I want to see strong friendships. Too many asexual narratives focus on the partner, and this is the trap allies almost always fall into, is they'll be like, I don't want sex. This is my partner, but I do not feel sexually attracted. And if you're an asexual, I can't speak to having a partner as an asexual because obviously I'm aroace. Although some aroaces have queer platonic partners, but I don't. We don't, our partners aren't like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. I hate the idea that you constantly reiterate you don't experience sexual attraction because that's not what it's like. It's you're basically writing an allo relationship without sex, and that's completely different from an asexual relationship. Celibacy is not asexuality. Celibacy is a choice. Asexuality usually isn't. Some people, again, it's different for everybody. But yeah, somebody asked me recently, what are some good asexual characters in current popular culture? And I'm like, I have a few I read as asexual, but other people read them another way. For me, it's kind of about like putting friendships as just as important as partners and family, and I think that would be like really healthy to see. I don't think it's gonna happen. I would say in my lifetime, I don't expect to see really great asexual representation. I'm doing what I do just for future generations. But yeah, currently I can't think of. My best friend and I, we read Hawkeye and Black Widow as having a queer platonic relationship. Suck it. Suck it, other shippers. Oh, I'm gonna get YouTube comments for that. Yeah, there are a lot of queer platonic. I know a lot of people read Bilbo Baggins as asexual. In fact, I fucking love this headcanon. There are a lot of people who read Tolkien's elves as an entirely demisexual race. Yes, the elves are demisexual. But yeah, explicitly asexual characters, no. No, there aren't any that I've seen. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'd recommend I know some people have said Homestuck. I have not seen Homestuck. Oh, is that a minute?
Actually, I just wanted to comment.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone knows Archie comics. I assume most of you do. Jughead is now canonically asexual.
Yeah.
I did see that, and I was glad for that. I was a little annoyed that so much love was given to an allosexual creator, but again, I'm bitter. So I get very, very testy about, yeah. Guys, this is my passion. This is like where I spend about an hour a day on this site, so I get a little testy about allos writing aces.
But that's why it's important to support asexual artists, because, you know, an established character like the Archie comics made by an allosexual, it's something that people all know about. So they see that, and they're not seeing the art created by asexuals. So they don't know any better.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's a crime of ignorance, but that's why it's important to support asexuals so that there's more ace characters being written by asexuals.
Oh yeah. And yeah, again, I'm all for great asexual representation by allos, but I'm like, I personally can't celebrate it unless they can name and support like 5 asexual artists. It's not that much. I'm not asking for the moon. Yeah, Stacy's awesome. Any other? Go ahead.
What do you think of asexual supporting characters? Like, would they have different criteria to follow, seeing as they aren't main characters and the story wouldn't be in their narrative as a result?
No, just as long as it's respectful and not like a robot. I don't want to be a robot. I'd like to see more badass asexuals kicking ass. That's why I write them. Oh God. Yeah, it's tough out there for an ace. Oh, 1 minute left. Thank you guys so much. I was scared. I didn't vomit on myself, so haha, victory! This slideshow was actually 165 slides long, so you're not going to see all of it. Michi told me that there is a way to possibly upload YouTube PowerPoint presentations to YouTube, so I'm going to look into that, and I'm going to do my very, very best to put it up. I'm going to post the link to this, to the recording on Asexual Artists, and love you guys. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to take
No, yeah, that's not a problem
and
at all.
I'll stick around for a bit, like outside, so if you want to ask me a question or whatever,